So then, we are back with the more understandings from the writings of the Second Tabernacle services. We find ourselves then during the time of Yeshayahu's prophecy of the 61st chapter, where the holy cities are returning. For those who are during this time trying to understand what it means, when Yahweh was speaking through the prophet, he was speaking of the holy cities laid waste, speaking of his Son, of his holy cities being laid waste. And begin to understand this time where then we find the holy city in the land of Cush, the site of it, and it's absolutely important sending an expedition over there, finding the holy site, and then building up the holy city. It's part of the prophecy, it was part of what was said, and then later would be then the rebuilding of the temple in Jerusalem as then part of the end of time. It is absolutely important for Israel at the moment hold on to their position until the holy city then is in place. It's extremely important, as we understand the Messiah Yahweh came during the time of the Feast of Tabernacles or Sukot, first day mid-Tishri of 4999. So then we begin to understand the importance of the returning of the holy cities, because they must. The Messiah Yahweh said, "Go therefore around the world and form holy cities or holy tabernacles." And we already found the site. It's in the land of Cush, beyond the rivers of Ethiopia, is then the site where the first city is going to be located at. Precisely as during the time of Yohanan, 100 years roughly after the ascension of the Messiah. So we find then the importance of this time not engaging in any other wars. We take the example, for instance, of the time of King David, when he was involved in many wars. He never had done any engagement without making inquiries of Yahweh. You can read through the scripture every time David was involved in invasions and then wars, he always had the prophet of Yahweh over there making inquiries. These days we are not to be making any kind of inquiries of a prophet, because the Messiah Yahweh already told his people to form holy cities, and in the cities you'll find the 7 functions: the word of knowledge, the word of wisdom, healings and miracles and prophecy, and then tongues, interpretation of tongues, and discernment of spirits. 7 spirits of Elohim, 7 functions. That's what they are there for. And there is the spirit of prophecy upon them, the set apart when they are obedient in the holy cities, giving directives. No other person can give directives. What would Israel should do? Should they invade Gaza? Nobody knows. Should they then only stand where they are at? Nobody knows. Should they go and invade Iran? Nobody knows. Because we must have the holy city. The whole purpose of the entire city is then giving directives. This was during the time of Yohanan, after Yohanan until 1009. That's how the nations they came and then did receive directives from the holy cities. Then there is absolutely no distinction. If Israel wants to invade Iran, nobody knows. It's their decision. The main question is, have then they taken the time in making inquiries of Yahweh prior of any military action? They have a history. They have Shaul, they have David, they have the other kings, and they understand what it means when they would make proper inquiries, and Yahweh had the favor and gave them the positive go ahead with it, then they would be prosperous. However, when Yahweh was not consulted, he was not making inquiry of, then it went wrong. So Israel has a huge gamble without making inquiries of Yahweh. It's extremely dangerous. And no nation in the earth can give them directives. Must come from the holy city. That's why it's extremely important. Absolutely certainty of having an expedition put together. Find it then at least an experienced Levite to go along with them. Make sure then they find the holy site and begin to build then the holy city. It's not complicated. In fact, it's very simple because the whole plan is already given and the Ark of the Covenant was already found. Must not leave then the land of Israel, but then a replica of it must be made for this holy city in the land of Cush. If you want to know any kind of information other than what you have to make inquiries of Yahweh. And He is not to be found anywhere other than the holy city. And truly the time is coming where the nations are at war, they are fighting against each other, and a decisive answer of what to do is the utmost importance. And Yahweh nowhere to be found. As the events are taking place so rapidly, it is the utmost importance of having then next autumn, mid-Tishri, the entire city already put together, the entire works put together as per the instruction of Moses, and then the updates found in Hebrews of the second tabernacle services writings, and then resuming the services. By next year this should be ready, and then at the start of the Feast of Tabernacles or then the holy mikra of Sukot, then the city should be ready to close its gates. Because the Mashiach Yahweh came and He then tabernacled with His people. So when you read Yeshayahu 1:8, then you understand the prophecy. It's very simple. However, the expedition must be put together. And they must go over there in the region of then east of Congo, Rwanda, Sudan, beyond the rivers of Egypt, and they must walk this line of these borders and find out the holy site. Read the prophecy of Yeshayahu. Read his prophecy. It is there, very clear, pristine. For those who are then endowed with understanding from the scripture, it is absolutely sure. Read it for yourself. By next year, by autumn, the high area of the site should be then worked, and then the city should be in place. Then nations can come and make inquiries of Yahweh, as they used to do in the past. Do you know why we don't find the records of it? Because most of them were burned in the Alexandrian library. That's where the contents of the Megillas of directives of nations were at. But then we understand what the Mashiach Yahweh said for His people to do. Go therefore around the world and form holy cities. So when you read the 61st chapter, then you understand. The cities laid waste for many centuries. He was not speaking of the vicinities of Jerusalem. He was speaking the cities themselves as a reference from the holy city in a desert. So as far as what Israel should do at the moment, nobody knows. Only Yahweh knows, but where is the city? An expedition must be put together expeditiously, very fast, and make sure the city is ready by next autumn. Until then, nations should hold their positions until Yahweh speaks. There is no other solution. Please stay tuned.